Hey Internet. Today we're going to work on a chicken run. We have two coops from different eras, and these are really more like places for the girls to be at night. This is one that I built several years ago. It's more of a steel cage castle sort of thing with an automatic door there. It's been great and it's lasted a really long time. And we're just using these. Oh, hello. Milk crates for boxes. And they're in this yard, which I think is a pretty great place to live, but they keep wanting to get out. So we're making kind of an intermediary run where they can be most of the time, and then we'll let them out on occasion to do work in the garden or hang out here in the farmyard with a little bit more supervision. So I've just excavated more or less a flat pad here. It's going to be mainly constructed out of water pipe. We're just going to take these 10-foot sections of water pipe and bend them, which is pretty common. There's all kinds of hardware specific for building hoop houses out of that stuff. I'm also going to be using these 4x4 pressure treated posts. You can see here I have two 12-foot sections that I will link together. So just about a 24-foot run. And I'll do the same thing here. So I'm going to use those as kind of anchors, and I'll show you how I'm going to attach the water pipe to those skids, and we'll go from there. I think as with most projects on the farm, part of the fun, or at least you can kind of make it fun, by putting a little bit more effort into the design. And I think that's a combination of like what's going to survive, what's relatively quick to build, can I reuse those parts later, because everything changes year to year depending on what we're doing and what we learn out here. And so I think this little simple hoop house is a great example of that. Original thought was, which I think I've seen more of online, like you can take rebar or those gardening stakes. They make fiberglass and plastic and all kinds of stakes, steel stakes, and drive those into the ground. In this case, I'll use this 2x4. So you have that sticking out of the ground, and you set those at increments along the way, and then your plastic pipe would slip over that, and then you'd force the bend to the other side. I was bumping on that for a couple reasons, but mainly like getting those stakes properly set in our rocky and clayey soil would be very difficult and likely not be very aligned, and just kind of sound like a pain. Not to mention cutting all of those stakes or buying stakes that were the right size. I remembered that I had a whole bunch of these carriage bolts. I have no idea where they came from. They're 1/2 inch. I've had them forever and ever, and I thought maybe this was a perfect opportunity to use something I had laying around. So the new concept was use those skids that you saw out there, those 4x4 skids, and I'll just use this as the example. But if I drive that carriage bolt through there, flip it upside down, I'll now have these nice little posts for the hoops to connect to, and they'll all be evenly spaced. They'll all be in a straight line. I can dictate the spacing with a lot of precision. And the best part is all of this stuff could come apart. These carriage bolts are galvanized. They should survive just fine. I could pull those out of the skids at a later date and use them for something else. I like that I said today we're building the hoop house, and yet it's been 3 days since I started the video with not much to show for it. Although I did get skids laid out, marked, and just finishing up drilling the holes for the carriage bolts. I'm using, if you don't really care about what the hole looks like, I'm using these Irwin speed bits, and they'll make short work of getting through these 4x4 posts. Not the cleanest holes, but I don't really care about that so much. So those holes are all done, As I mentioned, I got the skids more or less laid out. I have some straps that I'm gonna use, probably overkill. These are some Simpson strong tie straps. So I'll hold the skids together with that. We'll run our carriage bolts and start getting the hoop assembled. One thing I'll mention here, got all those bolts ran, is that, with the hoops installed, there won't be a lot, but there's gonna be some pressure here trying to spread those skids apart. And I'll probably manage that a couple different ways. One, it'll be really easy to drill a few holes through the skids and just anchor them to the ground, just keep the whole thing from shifting around. But the other thing I'm gonna do is run some horizontal pieces of this PVC, probably just 3 pieces across should do it. And the way I'm gonna install them is kind of doing a staggered hole. So I'm gonna get about halfway through with this 1 1/8 inch, and then I'll finish it with a 1-inch bit. And what that's gonna allow me to do is take this coupler and I'm gonna pound it into the 1 1/8 inch side. So you'll get a similar effect that I've got here, where it's jammed in there, not going anywhere. And then when it's on its side, I'll run the piece of PVC across and just use some PVC cement to secure it to the coupler. And that's just gonna resist those forces of the hoops trying to spread the skids apart. But I'm also realizing that having these properly placed here at the connection points, or at the ends of the run, is going to give me a nice anchor for the material that we're going to cover the hoop house with, some shade cloth. So I'll be able to just kind of skin it on the backside and then use clips to fasten it, keep it low to the ground. So we'll see how that works out. Got all our bolts in, got all these cross supports in. You can see we just basically shove that water pipe right to that coupler with some glue on there on both sides, so that'll prevent it from spreading side to side. I also realized, sometimes when you use the wrong tool for the job, there's some benefits. I realized, since I'm using this PVC water line for this interior structure, I could even go ahead and use it as plumbing as well. So I've put a T here that could be later used for an automatic chicken feeder. And because I'm using these couplers on the outside, easy to add on to that system and either continue on to some small irrigation runs or some future use. Okay, now the fun part. I'm using these standard 10-foot pieces of PVC. This is 1/2 inch in this example, which is going to be plenty flexible enough to, if I can do this without hitting myself in the face, I'm just going to bend this around and pop it on over to the other side. And so no cutting required, right? And I think that ends up giving me about just shy of a 6 foot wide, and I don't know what this is, maybe a little over 4 feet high. And you can see we got a structure. Well, the hoops were up until I realized I didn't mark all my center lines. So don't make the same mistake I did. All right, things are starting to take shape here. I'm using these snap-on tees that I actually think are usually used for repairing or adding a tap to a water line. In this case, I'm just using them to snap on to the hoop, create some cross bracing. And you can see I'm kind of staggering them. So I'll do a set of 2 and then one at the top, another set of 2. I'm gonna hopefully use them to my advantage later when we get to actually covering. We'll need to make some openings, so whether that's Velcro or just tied on, you'll be able to like open a flap and get in there to shovel poop, because who doesn't love to do that? You're probably wondering what this insanity is over here. I just had to kind of get a little creative in making a tunnel. This is an existing automatic door, so I just used some random plumbing bits, and these little clips are kind of key to this whole working. We just got these on Amazon, but you might be able to find them at your local hardware store. And so in this case, I just attached the clip to the chassis, and then I could snap those pipes on and use them to build off of. So I think once that's enclosed, then when the automatic door opens, they will only be able to go into the run unless maybe the secondary door here is open. So just giving myself options. All the bracings in, again using these snap T fittings. I ran out of the socket type, so I had to switch over to threaded, which is kind of dumb and necessitated these male adapters, but whatever, it's what I had. And just putting those in, like, this thing's, it's really not going anywhere. It's hard to demonstrate on video, but like, it can move back and forth a little, but there's not a lot of play there. So feeling pretty good about the rigidity. In terms of covering, we just had some of this, just happened to be, I did not plan this, but got lucky. Some 2 foot wide chicken wire. So we're gonna cover the generally south facing side with this, and then on the other side we'll do shade cloth. And because this is really facing not due south, it's kind of that way, we're more kind of east facing ish, southeast, so you'll get morning sun coming through it, which I think will be nice. And then you can see there it's about midday, and following the shadow line, I think if we do shade cloth on the back half, they'll have a lot of places to hang out once it starts getting real warm. So I think we're pretty good on structure. Now we're gonna go ahead and cover it and work out all the details. I'm gonna utilize similar PVC pipe and snaps to build a frame around the outside of this door that the shade cloth can connect to. And then I'm going to work out some sort of pulley system, so from outside of the run we can pull that door up. I haven't really sorted that out, but we'll get there. Here's a little view inside. I think it's pretty roomy. I mean, about 20 feet by 5.5, and there's going to be room for a sandbox in here too, or a dust bath. So I gotta get that sorted. Wife's got some rosemary picked out to go in here. We'll run some water lines, so they'll get a little extra shade in the morning from there, and just something to hang out in. We noticed that the girls love hanging out in the big garden closer to the house, so we figured we'll give them a little garden of their own. We're back. I forget what day this is. Day 4, who knows? It's already getting away from me. Things on the docket. I need to build a little bridge here. It's just kind of a design flaw, so they could just duck underneath the chicken trailer here. Found some old scrap, like maybe. I also have these old pieces from I think it was from a dog crate, so I'm gonna mess around with that a bit. I'm also going to install a door here, a secondary door, a manual door that we could open if we're just gonna let the girls out into the main yard as sort of a run bypass. And then I hope we can get to actually putting the cover on this thing. I think we got our little entry sorted out. Ended up using some of this smaller gauge. This looks like maybe 1/2 inch mesh. Has a little bit more structure for the sides and the top. Got a couple eyelets down there. The old dog cage went out. Use that for the floor. Come up with some sort of latching mechanism there, and I think that'll work nicely. I am noticing, you can see here, even though I thought I have all my bracing measurements correct, this one is pushing over pretty hard. So I gotta find the culprit, and likely all of them are just a little bit long, so I'll probably pull 2 or 3 and just shave them down, try to get this thing vertical again. I disconnected one of the braces, and you can see once this hoop lands, that's where it wants to live. It's about 2 inches too long, so instead of lopping 2 inches off of that, I'm gonna go ahead and pull a handful of these and cut off a smaller amount, just so I don't end up with one bay that's too skinny. Things are taking shape here. Pardon the way out there somewhere is a low-flying helicopter. I think they're doing test runs for fire season. I'm just, at this point, it's just using like as much scrap, old fencing and mesh and random bits that I had laying around. You can see the tunnel into the coop seems to all be dialed in. I just was gonna stop here for a second and just show, like, having that brace across not only is helping keep the skids from spreading apart, but it's also giving me an anchor, so I can lay in this flat piece of mesh, and now I have kind of a plane to work with, and attaching it down here at the bottom, and then I can trim this square wire welded mesh, trim it to fit the hoop at the top, and we'll get that all tied together. I'm using zip ties, like way too many, which I know is only a small step above duct tape. But I think part of the temporary nature of it is on purpose, and I would say that as we learn and or are happy with the design, I'll probably come back through with some baling wire or something more robust to really hold it all down. Well, gonna be the first time a project got away from me. I think as I continued working on the fabric and cover, you know, you got to have that conversation with your future self, how much you want to be here later fixing stuff. Like, what happens when 2 feet of snow happens out of nowhere? Is it just gonna all come down? So kind of ended up becoming a game of what I had available, kind of like just throw the kitchen sink at it. I had these, just kind of lucky, these old random roof panels that was actually part of that roof kit for the shop. So kind of just went for it and went a little bit like partway Quonset hut. Attached it just past the 180 mark, so it should do a little bit better with the wind and snowfall on that side. Still letting the morning sun come in, and then I think enough protection on this side, leaving some of that shade cloth down below for airflow. And I honestly, even though it was more work, and yeah, a lot more work, I think my future self will thank me. And when you're in here, now you got actual shade that the girls seem to be really into, and then the shade cloth side. So, you know, more options for them. I've gotten just about all the little holes buttoned up, just using, you know, whatever I had, scraps laying around. The service entrance is still a thing. I got these remaining panels left that will cover it, but I want to come up with something that's somewhat easy to open and close. So that's still on the list, but otherwise, you know, it's just kind of, I think it's going to be all right and should actually last more than a season or two. So to hold down the mesh here at the skid, I could just do a whole bunch of staples, but it's not going to look great, and I think stuff can get caught on it and yank at these panels. So I'm using just more of this PVC pipe and kind of pulling the mesh underneath it, and then securing the pipe down with these truss head screws anchored into the skid. And I think that's going to give me plenty of purchase, and then I can go and just trim all the ends of the mesh there, and should be a little bit cleaner finish. Haven't really gotten into tool reviews yet, so maybe this is the first, and it'll be short. This is the little 12-volt fuel driver. I'd say just do yourself a favor and get it. I reach for it almost every time over the big boy, and does just about everything that the 18-volt driver will do. It's awesome. After a lot more sweat, mesh, and zip ties, I think this project's pretty much done for a minute. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth noting here. The skids have still not been tied down. I thought at first maybe it wouldn't be necessary, but I think it's worth doing. And other than that, ran some internal drip irrigation for the plants. Mostly just a bunch of landscaping. Needed to make a flatter, more accessible spot here. Door stayed the same. I needed an easy entry. This probably isn't the final solution, but I had some old corrugated plastic roofing, which is pretty tough and shouldn't crack or really fall apart. So I just attached that, and it's light enough. It's light enough that my daughter can lift it up and fold it over when she's in there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, she wants to get in. See, they love it. All right, till the next one. Thanks.